All right, in goal 2.3, we are clearing an equation of fractions. So technically, there's going to be one new step. Once we do the clearing of fractions, then it's solving like goal 1 or 2, okay? But you must clear the equation of fractions. I do not want you working in fractions. The directions will be clear the equation of fractions. So while we have to find the least common denominator, you're not actually going to work with the least common denominator, okay? You're not going to make them all the same denominators. We're going to get rid of the fractions, okay? So first of all, you're going to find the LCD, least common denominator. You're going to multiply every term in the equation by that LCD. And then you're going to cancel stuff. That's what's going to eliminate or get rid of all of the fractions. And then you're going to get an equation that we can solve, like we did in goal 2.1 or 2.2. Okay? All right, so first question. Common denominator is 9 because it's the only denominator in the question. So we take each term by 9. That's my LCD, every term by 9. On the left side of equals, my 9's will cancel. 9 on the numerator, 9 in the denominator, gives me 1. So they cancel each other out. That's why you did it. All that's left then is x equals, and on the right side I have 10 times 9, which is 90. And there's my answer. Some of these questions that we're going to do, you possibly learn to do a different way, and I'm going to do them all this way, okay, with an exception. Okay, question 2. I only have one denominator, so that number that's there is the LCD, 5. So take both terms in the equation by 5. So on the left side of equals, my 5's are going to cancel. That's why we're doing it. And you're left with 3x. On the right side, we have negative 6 times 5, which is negative 30. This is where you should have an equation with no fractions left in it, and then you just solve as usual, like we did in goals 2.1 and 2.2. We're going to divide by 3. We get x alone, and x is negative 10. All your answers are checkable, just like we talked about last week. I could go to my calculator and punch in 3/5 times negative 10, and that ought to be giving me negative 6. LCD. I have a denominator of 4 and a denominator of 8. Your LCD, and this confuses people, when I say least common denominator, sometimes people look at this and say, well, it's 4. Okay, your least common denominator can't be smaller than 8. Go to your biggest number. Okay, it's got to be 8 or bigger, otherwise 8 won't cancel. So 4 is a factor of 8, so 8's good. 8 is going to be our LCD. This is the first one that's going to do something different here. So both terms by 8. On the left side, watch what happens, because this is the new part here. My 4 cancels, but it doesn't go into 8 just once. It goes into 8 2 times. So how many times does this denominator divide into 8? Twice. So it cancels out the 4. 4 divides into 8. 8's gone, and now there's a 2 there. So on the left here, I'm left with 2 times a negative x, which is negative 2x. On the right side, 8 cancels completely with 8, because that's just 1. And I'm left with just that 9 that was there. And then we solve as usual. So divide by negative 2. And that comes out a nice decimal on your calculator, negative 4.5. If you have a question that has a mixed number, so remember a mixed number means an integer and a fraction part together, 3.5. You have to change this. Must change to improper. It won't work if you don't. You have to do it. So that's going to be negative 5 equals, and this becomes 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, so it becomes 7 halves x. All right, so my LCD is 2. It's the only denominator in the question. So both sides times the LCD of 2. Both sides times my LCD, or both terms, I should say. So on the left side, 2 times negative 5 is negative 10 equals, on the right side, 2 cancels completely with the 2. That's equal to 1. It's gone completely, and I'm left with 7x. And divide by 7. And you should get a repeating decimal on your calculator. So we're just going to have to leave it in reduced form, which is the same thing, negative 10 sevenths. If you go to your calculator, and I don't know what the decimal actually is, so we'll just do it. You get negative 1.428571429, okay? And then if you go to your green y equals, go to number 4, it just goes back to negative 10 sevenths, which is what I'll be looking for. Okay, next question has a common denominator of 4. It's the only denominator there. That makes it the LCD. This is the first equation we have had with 3 terms in it. 65 is a term. 3/4 is a term. Negative 7 is a term. So every term gets multiplied by that 4. 4 here, 4 here, and 4 here. So not each side of the equation, but every term in the equation. So I'm going to take 65 times 4, and I get 260. On the second term, the 4's cancel. That's why we did it. That's 1, and I'm left with 3x. Minus 7 times 4, 28. And then we solve as usual. Add your 28. I have 288 equals 3x. And then divide by 3. And I get 96. So again, the first step is the new part for the day. The step after that, or steps after that, are what we did in goals 1 and 2. Okay? What's my LCD on this question? We want to volunteer that answer. 3 terms here. 5/6 is a term, 2/3 is a term, 4/3 is a term. Kayla, it is 6. So every term times that 6. All right, first term, 6 cancels completely with 6. leaving you 5x. Plus, on the next one, 3 cancels, not completely though, divides into 6 twice. And then you're left with the 2 that was there already, times the 2 you just got, so 2 times 2, which is 4, equals, and on the right side, my 3 is going to cancel, but not completely. 3 cancels, divides into 6 twice, and I'm left with 4 times 2, or 8. And then I solve greater than it. So I'm going to get my x alone, I'm going to minus 4. So 5x, those cancel. 8 minus 4 is 4. Divide by 5, and that will give you a nice decimal, or you can leave it 4/5 too. But it will give you 0.8. And that works for me. But you can leave it 4/5 if you like a fraction. Okay, anything asked so far? Any questions so far? Okay, on these next two, a little bit different looking. LCD on this question is what? Somebody want to volunteer that answer? What's my LCD? Alex? It is 10. So I'm going to take both terms times 10. Now there's only 2 terms in this equation. This is a commonly missed question, so I'm going to put a star by it. On the left side, 10 cancels completely with 10. And what you have in the numerator that they gave you is what's left in the equation. You don't multiply it at all. On the term on the right, 5 cancels, not completely though, divides into 10 2 times. And I'm left with 4 times 2, which is 8. And then I solve as usual. Add 4. So 5x equals 12. And then divide by 5. And x is equal to 2.4, I believe. And you could leave it 12/5, but a decimal's good for that one. What's my LCD on this one? Eli?
6.
It is 6. Now this one's a little different because of those parentheses. There are still only 2 terms in this equation though. Everything on the left is considered 1 term, everything on the right is considered 1 term. So on the left, my 3 will cancel, not completely though, goes into 6 2 times. And I am left on the outside of the parentheses, 2 times 2 is 4. I'm not going to go and do anything with the parentheses yet. Equals. On the right one, my 2 cancels, not complete, or the 2 cancels completely, but not into 6 completely. 2 goes into 6 3 times, and on the outside here, I'm left with 3 times 1, which is 3. Nothing to the parentheses.